All right, hi there, everyone. Thank you for joining us here this afternoon for First Alert Weather. I'm meteorologist Adam Claybon. It is Wednesday, December 17th, and we're continuing to follow the latest impacts from severe weather that brought widespread flooding, power outages, and dangerous conditions in the mountain passes. We're going to talk about strong winds. They overnight knocked out power to more than 300,000 people in the lowlands and brought trees and power lines onto roads and homes. Right now, more than 100,000 Puget Sound Energy customers are still without power. Many of those outages are in Island County and the South Sound area. Snohomish PUD is trying to restore power to around 30,000 customers. Down in Tacoma, around 6,000 customers are without power. The winds that knocked out power in the lowlands contributed to a rare blizzard warning in the Olympics and the Cascades. Alpental ski area clocked a 112-mile-per-hour gust. Yeah, that's a gust. Snoqualmie Pass came in at 82 miles per hour. And that blizzard warning expired earlier today, but conditions remain hazardous here as we head into the evening and into the first part of the night. Traction tires are still advised over Snoqualmie Pass, and oversized vehicles are prohibited. All right, Highway 2 still remains closed as well, and it could remain closed for quite some time. A 49-mile stretch of road between Skykomish and Leavenworth could remain closed for months due to damage sustained by debris slides and flooding. King 5's Bridget Chavez was given exclusive access to take us inside the disaster zone.
The destruction is impossible to miss.
You kind of don't really believe it until you see it.
This section of Highway 2 washed out and collapsed, now sitting in the Wenatchee River.
This is not AI, this is real.
This failure is part of a 49-mile closure between Skykomish and Leavenworth, cutting off one of Washington's most important mountain routes. And it's not a short closure. Governor Bob Ferguson says repairs could take months. We were only able to get this close with an escort from the Chelan County Sheriff's Office.
We have a lot of work ahead of us here in Chelan County.
Officials say the ground here is still shifting and are warning people not to go around the barriers.
No, you don't need to come down US 2. You're not going to make it through US 2.
What looks stable can give way without warning.
What we're seeing is this is unique to Chelan County. You're looking at historical floods, and it's been one of those years.
And this isn't just a road problem, it's also a business problem.
Well, it's challenging. I mean, there is definitely people that come over Stevens Pass to visit us here at the park and in Leavenworth in general.
For businesses in Leavenworth, Highway 2 is one of two ways to get here from the west side.
They still have Blewett Pass they can get over, and most people do, so I'm hoping that they'll do that.
Over the years, there have been weather-related closures, but usually a few hours or days. This is different. State officials say parts of the road need to be rebuilt, not just reopened.
I think that's going to be a challenge. I don't think in my history here I've never had this happen before.
Yeah, it's definitely been a very active period of time for us. Thankfully, a lot of Wednesday has brought some pretty quiet conditions for most of the area, and a lot of our advisories, warnings, and alerts, a lot of them have been allowed to expire or will be expiring soon. But we still have some active weather to come as we go throughout tonight, and it looks like more so into the next few days. We'll let you know where the high impact areas could be, and we'll let you know what that means for maybe additional rain, wind, or maybe mountain snow coming up in just a bit.
New data about safety and effectiveness can come to light. The FDA keeps track of that new data, which can come from patients, drug makers, or healthcare professionals, and may include information about negative reactions to prescriptions. Based on this information, the FDA may recommend that the drug maker update the drug labeling by adding warnings or updated dosage information. Changes could also include the FDA requesting a drug recall. Find the answers at fda.gov/drugs.
we're with Liam.
Welcome back, everyone. It has been a pretty active last 24 hours, and really over the past week or so. We've been seeing a lot of rain, but last night the focal point was more so those strong winds that came through. We already talked about a couple of wind gusts that were very strong here across the area. A lot of the higher terrain really taking the brunt of that, but I wanted to start off with that and just kind of show you what those maximum wind gusts were in a few of our locations. Again, higher up, Alpine Hall picked up a wind gust closer to 112 miles per hour. Check that out right there. You can see that on the very high end. White Pass coming in just under 100 miles per hour at 99. Snoqualmie Pass at 82 and at 71 in Whidbey Island. And well, there were a lot of gusts that were even up there around 50 to 60 miles per hour in a few of our spots. Let's talk more about the lowland areas. You can see Seattle 49 for that peak gust here since midnight, coming in at 44 in Shelton out towards the central and the south coast. In excess of 50 miles per hour in Hub Tulips and in Hoquiam at 55 and 58 there. A little less of that wind as you head farther north. Orcas Island and Bellingham both coming in at 32. And what you can see right there, the farther south you are, the more widespread 40 mile per hour wind gusts or higher, while the farther north you were, you really didn't see as many of those 40 mile per hour wind gusts. Good reason. We saw a lot more of that moisture off to the south, and a lot of that focal point to that atmospheric river that came through was near and farther south of where Seattle was. And guess what? We're going to see that trend continues with our next system that's going to be heading on in here, really diverting a lot more of the heaviest moisture off to the south, down across southern Washington, and more so down into Oregon and eventually into Northern California as well. Not to mean and not to say that we don't see any rain or even heavier pockets of rain with this, but it's not going to be really focused in and honed in on us here across parts of western Washington. So let's get back to that and talk about the rainfall that's still yet to come. You can see for areas farther to the north, especially rain-shadowed areas, there can only be maybe a quarter to maybe a half an inch of rain over this next 7-day stretch. And that bullseye of where you could see probably the most rain shadowing will be right here, really limiting some of the rainfall across the northeastern clip of the Olympic Peninsula. So that means getting closer there to it around Discovery Bay, up there around Port Townsend, maybe even northern part of the Kitsap Peninsula, then up around Camano and Whidbey Island, really seeing our rainfall limited due in part because of the rain shadowing and really just less moisture that's going to be available here with these systems that will be around. Still calling for about a half an inch to maybe 2+ inches of rain, depending on where we see some of the heavier pockets for many of us near and south of Seattle, and then all the way up there closer to around Bellingham too. You can see that those amounts start to pick up just a bit more, but really start to pick up as you head across some of the higher terrain where we could see anywhere between 2 inches to maybe 5+ inches of rain. Now, key thing is, a lot of that precipitation that will fall will be in the form of snow, which is going to be very beneficial in locking a lot of that moisture up into the mountains in that frozen form, not allowing it to fall down here into our streams, our rivers, our creeks, and to create even more of those higher waters here across our area, and really just bringing in an exaggerated or just another round of flooding here to the area. To the coast, a half an inch or 1.5 to 3 inches possible. Off to the south too, it looks like we'll be seeing some of the same amounts for some of those locations. So definitely we'll be keeping an eye out for more systems, and we'll stay active, just not quite as wet, as a lot more of the deep moisture will be off to the south. Rainfall today, we came in anywhere between about 1/4 inch around Port Townsend. Again, rain-shadowed spots there, north and east of the Olympic Peninsula, coming in less than what you're going to see farther north or off to the south, where you can see a lot more of those amounts around 1 inch or 1/2 inch to 1 inch, if not even more than that. Port Angeles, coming in at about 1.25 inches. All right, let's talk about the next 7-day stretch. We do have rain in the forecast, and that will be hanging with us here heading on into the day tomorrow. I think we'll have a few showers around early into Thursday morning in a few spots. And with rain shadowing happening, we might keep that limited here around more of King County, maybe northern Pierce County and southern parts of Snohomish County, but then it will start to fill in and we'll have more of the steady rain heading into the second half of the day and into the first part of the night. More mountain snow to go along with that too. Friday, expecting to see a little more of the same, and we'll see those showers kind of hang around for us. Maybe a heavier round of rain coming through on Sunday before we head on into next work week, and we'll keep the active weather going, but it does look like we are going to see fewer of those showers just around the time we head into Christmas Eve next Wednesday, with a high of 50 or 44, and probably seeing only a few showers around and a little more sunshine. Let's go on that side. Granite Falls, looks like our camera is down there. So let's go ahead and move on to what we'll be keeping an eye out for when it comes to the wind outside. We do have advisories that are going to start up again for us out towards more of the coast, across parts of northwest interior, our island communities there, Camino and Whidbey Island, and then this does not include the city of Seattle or looks like Everett either. It looks like we're going to be spared from this, and probably will keep those gusts under 40 miles per hour. But as you go across the southern half of King County and down into the rest of Pierce County and down across parts of more of southwest interior too, expecting to see some of those gusts that could get up there around 40 to 45 miles per hour. So another round of some pretty strong winds coming on by. Thankfully this time around, not quite as strong as the event that we just had to deal with. Albeit, power outages will still be possible. We have that super saturated soil with all the rain recently that just creates the environment for those roots that are dug in there not to have as much tension to really work off of to hold them in place. So the wind that's going to be with us here over the next couple of days definitely could create additional power outages, but we're not expecting that to create as much of a widespread issue as what we've had here throughout last night and earlier into the day. All right, let's talk about how this all comes together for us. Futurecast, you can see as we head on into the second half of this evening and heading on into tonight, that we do expect to see some showers around. Now, better chances will come around as we head past midnight, and even at that point, we're talking about more scattered off and on showers here closer to the I-5 corridor. Definitely not seeing anything too steady at that point. Going all the way down towards Chehalis, Tacoma, you can see a little in terms of steady rain there, maybe a little more up this way around Everett and getting up towards Bellingham, but even then, not seeing much of the steady rain except out towards the Olympic Peninsula where we do have a lot more that will be in place. So it definitely looks like it is going to be more of an Olympic Peninsula and coastal hitter for the earlier part of your day on Thursday. That's 6 to 7 o'clock there. Before we head on into the afternoon, let's go ahead and back that up for you throughout the day on Thursday. And you can see that there will be some pockets where that rain will be coming through and heavier at times too. Late morning, here we are early afternoon, just at that lunch hour at 12 o'clock. Some of that yellow and orange that you're seeing, that's indicative of some pretty heavy rain that we're going to have at that point. So keep that in mind if you have any outdoor plans, if you're trying to run any errands. The second half of the morning and heading into the afternoon will definitely be more wet. And as we continue on into the evening, you can see how that really kind of blossoms on radar right here, or Futurecast, off to the south across more areas of southern King County, down across more of South Sound. That's where that deeper moisture will be. And we kind of mentioned this, that this deeper moisture in this atmospheric river will impact more of southern Washington as opposed to areas here farther north where we are heading on into the day for tomorrow evening and into tomorrow night. And at the same time too, you're seeing a decent amount of the blue popping up here across the mountains. Now, one thing is that we might see a little bit of a nudge up as far as our snow levels initially. Stevens Pass, of course, we have the issues with the closures there. That probably is going to stay in the form of snow pretty much the entire time. Also, a higher elevated pass at that too. Here around Snoqualmie Pass, we might see some mixing, maybe even periods of rain for a little short time before switching back over to snow as this system comes on by. And then down around White Pass, you can see areas are looking to be a lot more wet at this point with a little mixing, and then we'll start to switch that back over to snow as we head into tomorrow night as that colder air really begins to settle on in. By about 10 p.m., most of the steady rain is on and out of here across parts of western Washington. At that point, we are starting to do a little better in terms of that. Again, we probably will see a little more of that water start to find its way back down across areas into our rivers, our streams, and our creeks, but with a lot more of this being locked up in the form of snow across the higher terrain, it's not going to bring as much of those, or as many of those issues as what we've had here over the past week. That will finally start to let up here as we head on into more the earlier part of your day on Friday, and we should see fewer in terms of showers and some areas of sunshine throughout the day with some pockets of rain from time to time too, and some additional snow to come as we head on into that point. So as far as rainfall totals with this here, we're talking about an additional maybe half an inch to an inch here in some spots as we head over the next 24 to, I would say, even 36 hours. As we go on into tomorrow evening, though, you see areas farther south which won't pick up as much of that rain. Well, we're only about 1/10 to 2/10 of an inch. Once we head on into tomorrow night, that's when it really starts to increase as far as some of the rainfall amounts, with that here coming in closer to that inch amount. They are down across some of those locations. And as we mentioned, that the snow levels, they are expected to be just a bit on the lower side here as we head over the next few days. Tomorrow, with that spike in the snow levels getting up to 5,000 feet, Stevens Pass, we could see some of that mixing, but mostly I think we're going to be dealing with more snow there. Snoqualmie Pass, we saw that a lot of that will be in the form of rain before it switches back over to snow. So that 5,000 foot level where you can see Snoqualmie Pass sits at 3,000 feet. Well, that's going to help us see generally rain here for the day tomorrow. But a lot of this is going to be around 2,000, 2,500, 3,000 feet. We're talking below pass level with a lot of the systems that will be moving on through with all the moisture that we're going to see. And that will help to reduce and bring us more snowfall, which we can definitely use. We've gotten the moisture. We've gotten a lot of rain to help out our dry conditions. Now we need to build that snowpack here as we get ready to head on into the rest of the winter season so that we can use that water once we get ready to head into the dry season, heading on into next summer. All right, let's talk about the 7-day forecast, because what we are expecting here over the next 7-day stretch is an active period. We are going to see temperatures definitely on the cooler side, highs falling back down into the 40s and more the mid 40s at that, which will be a lot closer to where we should normally be for this time of the year. Those are more seasonable temperatures, so the 50s and even the 60s that we've been seeing here recently look like they are going to be a thing of the past once we head on into the day tomorrow and we get that milder air mass on out of here. Kind of talked a little bit about the snowfall forecast. We do have advisories out for that. We'll talk more about that. Plus, we'll show you the totals that we could possibly be seeing here as we head over the next 7-day stretch coming up right after this.
New data about safety and effectiveness can come to light. The FDA keeps track of that new data, which can come from patients, drug makers, or healthcare professionals, and may include information about negative reactions to prescriptions. Based on this information, the FDA may recommend that the drug maker update the drug labeling by adding warnings or updated dosage information. Changes could also include the FDA requesting a drug recall. Find the answers at fda.gov/drugs. New data about safety and effectiveness can come to light. The FDA keeps track of that new data, which can come from patients, drug makers, or healthcare professionals, and may include information about negative reactions to prescriptions. Based on this information, the FDA may recommend that the drug maker update the drug labeling by adding warnings or updated dosage information. Changes could also include the FDA requesting a drug recall. Find the answers at fda.gov/drugs.
All right, welcome back, everyone. We are going to talk a little more about the snow that is on the way, because I know for a lot of you who are snow lovers who want to get out on those slopes to the ski resorts and ski and snowboard, just anything in terms of snow, you got to have the snow up across the mountains for that. And it looks like we are going to be making our way into more of a favorable pattern for that to be the case, as we really haven't had a lot of the cool air to go along with all the moisture that we've had in place to produce a ton of snow. Now it looks like we are going to start to see that. Less in terms of moisture, though, which is going to be good because we don't need as much of that here in the lowlands. And with the colder air, we are going to lock in a lot more of that moisture higher into the mountains and keep that up there in the form of snow. But before we get into more of that part of the forecast, I did want to go ahead and talk about some of the river levels here and how we've been shaping up and faring here over these past 24 hours and what we're really expecting. So you can see a lot of our rivers are beginning to recede. We're seeing more of that trend. We do have still minor flood stage there at the Nooksack, as well as getting closer to the Skagit River near Concrete, as well as the Cedar River too, where you can see around Renton we're still running minor flood stage when it comes to that. Moderate flood stage for the Snohomish at Snohomish, as well as the Snohomish near Monroe. Up around Snoqualmie, the Snoqualmie River there, Carnation, we're talking about also sitting at moderate flood stage, as well as the Skagit River near Mount Vernon. So we're seeing improvements. We're seeing some of this water trying to come down. We have some additional rain to come. Hopefully we won't be really seeing these levels rising a whole lot more, but there could be some additional level rise or river rise to come with the rain and some of the higher snow levels that we're expecting into the day for tomorrow. But don't expect that to be, again, a major issue or bring any sort or anywhere near the same impacts as what we had just about a week to 5 days ago. Now let's get into why we are expecting to see a little more of that moisture stay up into the mountains, because we have colder air there, and we do have winter weather advisories that have been issued here for the area shaded in purple. That's for the Cascades there, and for really elevations that are going to be near and above 3,000 feet, really above 3,500 feet. We're going to be seeing close to a foot, if not even a foot and a half of snow in some of those spots. Now those are the purple shaded areas. You can see the Olympics are not included in that. A bit more of a milder air mass coming off of the Pacific going to lead to a bit more of that moisture staying in the form of rain, especially with our next system here heading on into the day tomorrow and into the first part of tomorrow night before things cool down enough to see a little more snow up across even the Olympics. Let's talk about those snow levels here. They start to spike up again, getting closer to 5,000 feet after being around 2,500 and 3,000 feet for today. And then we kind of level off between 2,000 and 3,000 feet starting up on Friday and lasting there all the way into a lot of next week. And again, we are expecting some active weather, so that's going to help us out in terms of seeing more accumulating snowfall across some of the higher terrain there. Here's that forecast. You can see plenty of chances for us here in the lowlands of seeing areas of rain. Most of this will be fairly lighter, maybe more moderate in nature, as opposed to seeing a lot more of this deep moisture coming in from the subtropics. We're going to have the cooler air to go along with that, so that won't really allow as much of that water to come down from the higher terrain. Out this way towards Westport, a good afternoon / early evening for you. Cloudy skies and not as much of the rain right now, but that is definitely going to be picking up here once we head on into the nighttime hours. Forecast here as we head on into the evening, probably calling for a little more of that rain here to start to pick up around the Seattle area as you get just around, maybe even just a little after that evening commute. So we're talking more 7 to 8, maybe 9 o'clock to 9, and seeing the higher chances as we head into the middle and latter part of tomorrow morning. So you can even see just one raindrop popping up on those icons right there. It kind of gives you an idea that we're seeing kind of off and on chances, pretty light rain here, but we could see some dry times too to go along with that. All right, let's continue on. We're expecting to see that the moisture that's heading our way, well, it is just its way off of the coast. It's not too far out of the way for us, but we are starting to see some of that beginning to pop up on radar. So as we take a look at that, you can see that cloud deck beginning to find its way here just off of the coast. Now, a lot of that's going to be finding and working its way towards the southern part of the state and down around more of Oregon, around the Portland metro area, as opposed to up here around the Seattle metro area. Rainfall for us, though, here for the time being, a lot of that's on the fairly light side. You can see down this way around Westport, we just showed you the camera view, not a whole lot really falling, even though you can see some returns there as far as what's radar is showing. There's not really much rain that's in place as we speak. And even across some of the higher terrain, our passes, our snow is coming down, but it's more off and on in nature too as we head on into the night. All right, let's talk about this on Futurecast, and you can see that we are expecting that some of this will start to ramp on up here as we head on into the second half of the night. So out there over the Olympic Peninsula, seeing a lot more of that moisture that will be around for us. That's 6 to 7 o'clock tomorrow morning. The Olympic Peninsula definitely covered in precipitation, seeing some snow too across the Olympics. But we start off as snow, it looks like, initially here for the Cascades and around some of the passes, but with the milder air winning out, that will eventually start to nudge that out of here. We're talking more so rain towards the middle and second part of the afternoon as that pushes on by. That's where we get that snow level to start to spike up around 5,000 feet. Then it starts to come back down again as we head on into late tomorrow night and then into the day on Friday, where we are expecting to see less in terms of that moisture. Now, let's talk about snow of all amounts that we're expecting here. Here as we head over the next, I would say 36 hours, check out what's happening here across areas such as Stevens Pass and Snoqualmie Pass. A half foot, closer to a foot of snow ahead. Now, Crystal Mountain, about a half foot there. Again, not super impressive amounts, but something that will definitely be noteworthy. And up around Mount Baker, definitely seeing some higher amounts with the colder air in place there, keeping us more so in the form of snow. So near maybe at 2 feet of snow could be ahead